Yeah.
But it is significant because it doesn't matter if you're a mother or a father, that could happen, right? Because at some point, theoretically, you're raising kids well enough so that they can go off on their own and they're independent and they don't need you.
Well, right. I mean, the best teacher is a teacher that makes himself obsolete, right? That's the goal.
Exactly.
So, great.
I can do that in 2 days as a teacher. I am that good.
You can do it even before you get there.
That's right.
But then you go, you like, I don't know. It's challenging because you want to engage enough that like you feel like you're giving everything you can, and you're also pulling out of this little human being that's yours for a little while everything that you can, and then you want to send them off to be and do whatever it is that they want to be and do, which hopefully falls in line with some of the things that you value, But at the end of the day, it's like striking that balance between, I mean, it's a part, right? It's a part of you. Whether you give birth to it, whether you adopt it, like, and you put so much into this thing. It's that like labor. I put so much into you that like I can't just disconnect. But then you're gone, and who am I afterwards?
Exactly.
And I think that's the hard part. But then like, then do the people who have thrown themselves in 100% and like let go of other stuff, assuming they can do that financially and whatever else,
right.
Do those people get more out of it having really saturated themselves, or do they set themselves up for disaster for when the kid leaves and they have no idea who they are anymore?
I fear the latter, but I was turning to you for answers, but you don't know which way that goes, apparently.
Well, I think that this is where you have to have a really strong. Hopefully, you have a really strong sense of yourself to be able to say, here's what it becomes. It becomes the difference between here's what I want and here's what I need. And the reality of it was, like, after a certain amount of time of being home with my baby, I stopped being good for her. Because I was a wreck. Because I was like, I need to have adult conversation. I need to feel like there is someone other than this infant who needs me to show up somewhere and do something every day. Like, I need to feel like I'm contributing on a larger scale to a larger project or a larger mission or something like that. And then I can come back to her and be, more full as a human being for me. Right. And so that was the answer. Like,
By serving your own needs, you can help them more.
Yes, although I think that, that's fine.
Yeah,
my stomach was just growling. I don't know if you could hear that.
I could hear that, and I bet the mic picked that up. But there does seem to be a
That's
difference.
the other thing that happens. I think you don't eat like an adult for, the duration of your time as a parent, because it's like you feed your kid, and then whatever's left is sort of what you,
when they get older,
starts to be
it's
like
a little
macaroni and peanut butter and
She's
plums.
still too young. You'll get to have real meals, and you'll just be
sooner or later.
You'll just be amazed by how much of a
good
lack of a
food
palate
tastes.
they have. Yeah, no, you'll be enjoying the food. But there's a difference now between the way parents parent a kid, because being a stay-at-home mom now is different than being a stay-at-home mom a generation ago.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Right? Because,
Right.
I mean, there were all these tests done that American students are bottoming out in terms of math and science and English and Lord knows what's happening with geography. But the thing we're number one in is self-confidence.
Well, yeah, that's
and I think isn't that what is happening with people staying at home with their kids and focusing all their energies on the kid rather than something else in their life. When you read Little House on the Prairie, it's not like they're sitting there with the kids all the time. Oh, how you doing? Oh, you're very good job. No, they're telling, let's come out and skin the raccoon or something.
Right. We do that in my house.
You do that.
Skin the
I'm sure
raccoon,
well,
yeah.
anything to eat.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's, well, whatever. I mean, I think that Americans generally, like the confident, I mean, as part of, I know, mostly to fill the stomach and stop having it growl. Most of the students that I worked with were middle school and high school students. Mm-hmm. And when I started, it was sort of like, come on, you can do it. Like, have faith in yourself, And then by the time, it's like 2 decades later and you're here with these same kids, and these kids are like, get out of my way, I'm awesome. And then you're like, you are far from awesome, and you need to listen to somebody else talk for a minute. You know what I mean? But like, I don't know, there's like this entitlement that sort of pervades, pervades the youth of America. Mm-hmm. Probably the same way it pervades a lot of the, adults of America. Mm-hmm. And so I totally agree with you. But I think that's a cultural phenomenon as much as it's like, but I see that too. It drives me crazy when parents are like, you know, everything that happens with their kid, it's like coddle. I mean, she falls down and I'm like, get up. Like, that's going to happen a lot, you know. I mean, not if she's like bleeding or, you know, has cut her head open or something, but it's like you can't spend so much time making your kid feel like they're the only person in the world. Absolutely. Right. Or making them feel like everything they do is wildly successful, because I think that also sets them up for huge disappointments later when other people won't tell them that, you know. And it's also just not true. Like, but I think that, I mean, your point, which is self-confidence is really high, but actual capability is a lot lower.
Right, which is problematic.
That is totally
it's a bad
problematic.
Balance.
But that's also, you're introducing like 15 million other elements, because you're talking about schooling and you're talking about cultural priorities and you're talking about,
and you don't think, but doesn't that start with parenting at some point? Isn't that a parenting responsibility to prove that contextually people need to be more concerned with their kids' overall well-being and rather than just being there for them? Isn't there more to being just there for them and being there as a fully rounded individual? Yeah,
and I think a lot of that comes from having a solid sense of yourself when you begin. You know what I mean? I mean, if you think that, but this is also like there's so many books and guides and classes and people who will give you advice on parenting and like schools of thought and all this stuff. I mean, it's all meant to make you question your instincts, I think. So you end up having a situation where a parent maybe wants to discipline their kid, but then they feel like, well, publicly, if I do that, you know, people are going to look at me and be like, or, you know, like you constantly feel judged and you're constantly questioning yourself. And there's this, I think there's this horrible, especially as you're starting, this horrible sense that like, no matter what you do, it's going to be awkward and wrong. I mean, even if it's like your kid is going the wrong way up the slide, you're like, well, I mean, it's a playground. Do I let them like go up the slide or do I stop it? Or, I mean, it's like everything becomes this micromanaging issue of like, oh, is that parent going to get mad because their kid's trying to come down this? I mean, everything is like, it's too much. You feel like your brain is going to explode. And so like, if
you've got to let them make their mistakes, so they've got to go up the slide. That's how they become mountain climbers.
Yeah, that is, especially if you let them go up the slide with crampons.
That's right.
I mean, yeah, but I think that the problem is that people as individuals don't want to, like as adult individuals separate from their kid, most people don't want to make a scene. Most people. Mm-hmm. And so they do what they can to avoid making the scene, which frequently is like, oh, hi, come here, honey. Like, that's like the least offensive thing you can do, is just sort of, you know, gingerly take your kid out of the scenario, as opposed to like, let them fight with the other kid.
Right.
You know, work
it
it out.
Do you do that, though?
Sometimes.
Really?
What? Let them fight with the other kid?
Let them fight it out, like it's Fight Club or something?
Yeah, Baby Fight Club. We do that, too, after we skin the raccoons. We have Baby Fight Club. No. Not necessarily.
Don't talk about it. Never talk about Baby Fight Club.
No, you know what I do? Like, and this is the other thing you do, is you start to, you come up with, like, tactics. Mm-hmm. Like, you're like, well, I'm not going to parent anybody else's kid. Like, that's not appropriate. However, I will, like, become aware of who the parent of the kid is and, like, be like, just so you know, my kid's a little rough and tumble. If that's okay, like something might happen here. And then if it does, like this parent is, you know, prepared. Or if they're like, oh yeah, my kid's really fragile, I'll be like, great, Bailey, let's move. You know what I mean? Like I try to make it so the situation doesn't happen. But like once they're in it, I'm sort of like, I don't let her like knock out another kid. I'm not saying that.
She's not old enough yet.
No. Well, she's got a swift right hook.
She does?
No, just kidding.
So if people want to know more about parenting and identity, postpartum identity, what should they read or take a look at?
I mean, I'm in a bad place to recommend things. Like
that's your answer.
No, it is because I would say anything that's irreverent. Read that.
And so Michael Lewis's
Home Game,
instance,
is
like that.
Fun. Yeah, that's I think it's the subtitle is An Accidental Guide to Parenting or something like that. An Accidental Guide to Fatherhood.
And you like that just because he takes a very unorthodox approach to being a dad.
I mean, I guess I think anything that tries to be prescriptive or also that tries to be sincere, like, I mean, the sincerity, it's like you can't, I don't think you can approach it without a sense of humor. Is sort of it. So the thing that allows you to make mistakes, laugh at yourself, totally publicly feel inept, like those are the books you should read, you know? and then like you build yourself up from knowing that sort of everyone doesn't know what they're doing when they start, and that, you know, so yeah, I would say that's the one I'm reading right now. That's fun.
Home game. Yeah.
Home game. I
Not
suppose.
Mommy Dearest, to just remind you that it could get worse at any
No,
point.
I feel like I'm waiting for the book. I mean, maybe I'll have to write it. I'm waiting for the book that's like all the feelings that you're not supposed to have when you first, have your kid come. I mean, and he has a couple of the anecdotes in there, but, it's like they tell you, your heart will open wide and you love all mothers and all babies. And it's like, that did not happen for me.
It did.
It did not.
There was
It
no
did
glorious
not.
moment? Did
No,
you think
it
your
was
baby
like-
was ugly when it was born?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that. It was just that the world became much smaller, in that moment. It became much more about like, what am I doing? Because you have no idea. I mean, everything changes, and at the same time, everything stays the same. And so it's like, how do you? So wow, you blew my mind, Alexis. How do you adjust to like keep doing what you were doing now that you have to basically caretake this entirely new life? How do you adjust your marriage?
Right.
What's that new relationship like? Because that changes entirely. And so anything that tries to tell you, you make sure you do this and that, and it's like, it's just, sorry, that was a bad gesture. I haven't cursed the entire time.
That was hitchhiking,
though.
right?
I was hitchhiking.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I haven't cursed the entire time.
You've done very well with that. You don't curse in front of your child.
No, not when she's awake.
But you're saying that sincere and prescriptive are bad, but I'm still going to ask you for one tip for people in terms of what they can do to maintain their postpartum identity.
Maintaining your postpartum identity, I think, is about allowing your identity to change, and also about not letting yourself lose sight of the things that you need in order to be a complete person for your family.
That's it?
Well, not what you want, but what you need. Being able to clearly articulate, I am my best self when I am blank. And then find a way to make those things happen. And then you'll be of, better service to your family instead of thinking, well, this is what I'm supposed to do now. Because what I'm supposed to do now is like quicksand, is what I think. My stomach.
All right. You can hear that.
that?
That's right.
Do you hear that?
I do hear it. I think if
So
you want
sorry.
to be a role model, then you actually need to be a complete individual, and that
Yeah.
includes pursuing your own dreams and your own passions, not to the detriment of your child, but actually to their benefit, by letting them see you as somebody who has all those things, joys, passions, and failures.
And also, though, letting what you articulate as your dreams and passions and goals, letting those things evolve and not thinking of yourself as a failure because they've changed.
There we go.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I like that. We are going to allow you to have a second child, as apparently you're going to. Thank you for passing this stuff.
That's
It was a
the
television
growling
intervention of
that's
sorts. So thank you. Thank you, Alexis. You're very kind to me.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you.
Ting ting.
Ting ting.
They said as she nurtures the other
Right.
child. in her
Alcohol
womb.
for your baby. That's a good show.
It's water. It's water. Everybody.
It's not water.
It is water.
It's not
Do
water.
you want to smell it? Or you want to just drink it? It's water with
I
ice in
swear
it.
it's not.
It is.